I welcome all the devotees for the Bhakti Sastri class. I extend my heartiest welcome to those who are coming back after doing their prior semester, and I welcome especially with further warm welcome to those who are joining for the first time for the Bhakti Sastri class. I did receive quite few devotees wanting to join. For those who are joining for the first time and those who I personally don't know you, it would be nice if you just send me like 2-3 lines introducing yourself and where are you based and what's your services, and if you are aspiring or if you are initiated, who is your spiritual master, and so on and so forth. That'll be nice. So please to send me. I'll keep reminding over the semester. Any questions before we start? We'll do the Jai Radha Maha prayers and then we can get started today. Don't worry, we'll have a lot of time for questions as we go along in the semester. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ashtasaki ki Srila Prabhupada ki Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ji ki. Hare Krishna. So, today we'll be doing which chapter? All right. Back in business. So, we are in 10th chapter. We'll do the pranam prayers first, the Mangalacharan prayers, to invoke auspiciousness, and then we can start. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Matsamo nasti papatma naparadhi cha kaschana parihare pilajjame kim bhruve purushottama. Bhumau skalitapadanam Bhumirevavalambanam Tvai jata paradhanam Tvameva sharanam prabho. Govinda vallabhe radhe Prarthaye tvamaham sada Tvadiyam iti janatu Govindo mam tvaya saha. Radha radhita radhesha Radhika pranavallabha Radha ramana vande tvam Radhika prema nirjita. So today we'll be doing the 10th chapter with permission of Her Grace Jagarini Mataji, who graced our semester last month and eager to have our association this month too. So we are doing the 10th chapter. In the 9th chapter, so a quick recap before we go on. Makes sense, right? All right, it's useful for those who joined this semester. So in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna and his brothers, the Pandavas, are assembled to fight, and they are fighting against the Kauravas. In the first chapter, after Arjuna saw all his relatives and he has to fight and possibly kill them, he was overwhelmed with grief, and he said to Krishna, "Oh Krishna, I do not want to fight this battle." And he gave up his intention to fight at the end of the first chapter. In the second chapter, Krishna, the first part of second chapter, Krishna actually explains the difference between body and soul. And he says that, "Oh Arjuna, you are lamenting for the body of your relatives, which anyway will be destroyed." And the second half of the second chapter, Krishna talks more in terms of performing one's duty without expectation and how to control the mind and senses. And he ends the second chapter by saying, what's that verse? Esha brahmi sthiti partha naiva partha muhyati sitva syamanta kalepi brahma nirvana mrichyati. He says that those who have steady intelligence, because in the second chapter Arjuna asks Krishna, what is the characteristics of a man who has steady intelligence? And he says that those who are situated in this firm spiritual life, even at the moment of death, they can enter into the kingdom of God. Isha Brahmi Sthiti Partha. But the theoretical knowledge is not enough, because as conditioned souls, we have been in this world since time immemorial, acquiring so many modes of material nature. To overcome that like that is impossible. And so the third chapter is dedicated to Karma Yoga and how one has to perform one duty even though one is in this material world, and how the actions and reactions happen. And towards the end of third chapter, Arjuna asks this very important question to Krishna. Oh Krishna, what is it that causes a man to perform sinful activities? As if that man is being pushed by someone. It's like somebody is putting a gun to your head and asking you to do something, but what is that cause? And Krishna says, Kama esha krodha esha rajodguna samudbhaham mahashano mahapapma nityam yeniva vairinam. He says that, O Arjuna, it is only lust which is impelled of mode of passion, later transformed into all-devouring wrath, that is the eternal enemy of the living entity. Under that spell, people perform severely, activities which are against. In the fourth chapter, Krishna talks about jnana or jnana yoga. He says that all these sacrifices actually culminate in jnana or self-realization. And in the fifth chapter, Krishna talks about karma sannyas yoga, which is that at that point only the sense gratification actually comes up in a serious way. He says that one should completely give up one's desire to perform sense gratificatory activities because they are cause of the bondage in this material world. Ehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavantu kaunteya nateshu ramate bhuja. 522, Krishna says that. And then in the end of the fifth chapter, Krishna talks about dhyana. So people have this idea that you read Bhagavad Gita, you will run off to the forest. Especially in India, parents say to the children, no, please don't read Bhagavad Gita. You will actually go to forest. You will give up everything. But ironically, Arjuna wanted to give up everything and Krishna says, don't. In the sixth chapter, after you, yes. Even more dangerous. At least in the forest you can get your kid back. So in the sixth chapter, actually, when one is perfectly controlled in mind and senses, then only can one go to the forest, and one can live in the forest purified and have the eightfold system of yoga called the Ashtanga Yoga, in which only then in the perfection of that yoga is where you can actually see Krishna. And that's what is discussed in the sixth chapter, that Krishna says initially that on the path of dhyana, the work is the means, and for those who have attained perfection, cessation of work. Once you have attained perfection in dhyana, can you only go to forest because there is no work involved. Till that point, actually, one has to do one's work. So in this material world, we have two paths. One is the path of maintaining our body and maintaining the family members, and the second path is our spiritual path. And oftentimes, it seems a little difficult because you have doing so many things. You have your sadhana and you have your work, and it seems overwhelming at times. But please understand that through this austerity, one gets the highest benediction. Otherwise, life in the human form is not worth living if one is just engaged completely in sense gratification. It's not my words, but Krishna, he says in the third chapter that he says that, what's that verse? Evam pravartitam chakram nanavartayati yaha Aghayurindriya Rama Mogam Partha Sajivati. He says that, "Oh Arjuna, those who do not follow this cycle of sacrifices that have been set by me in the Vedas, but whose life is exclusively dedicated to sense gratification," he says, "Oh Partha, that person lives in vain, because they have not gained the true wealth of human life, which is spiritual advancement." So 6th chapter, Krishna talks about Dhyana Yoga, and Arjuna asks this famous question. You are saying control your mind and you will achieve perfection, but controlling the mind is more difficult than controlling the wind. It seems impossible. You are asking me to go to forest, leaving up my business, my profits, and then I go to forest, I can't control my mind. I'm neither here nor there. It's a hopeless situation. What's the profit I have? And Krishna says, don't worry, O Partha, that if you endeavor on this path, there is no loss or diminution. And even if you fail, the future is glorious. In material world, everything has to be done 100%. Nowadays, 100% is not good enough. It has to be 150%. The bosses openly say you have to give your 110%, 120%, 130%. And the projects not completed, if the boss asks you for the status, how is the project? Boss, I worked really hard, 50% is done. What about the other 50%? Are you not happy? What's wrong with you? You should be satisfied with whatever work I have done. They'll fire you next day. But Krishna is saying that even if you fail, then in the next life you will have a glorious life. You will either be born in the family of rich people, or you are born in the family of transcendentalists. Either of the lives are great lives. So when you are coming here on your Sunday afternoon, please rest be assured, according to Krishna, you are having a really good life in future, one way or other. And you are not wasting your time. In fact, if you want to, those who are actually 99.99% of the people in the world who have so many other engagements on a Sunday afternoon, yes, if they are not taking up to spiritual life, then it's a serious loss for them. So at the end of 6th chapter, Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yoam samayukto tamomataha. After explaining all these paths, he explains karma yoga, he explains jnana, he explains dhyana. He says, of all these yogis, one who abides in me, one who serves me with faith, I consider him to be the highest of all. Because if Krishna says that is highest, then we accept that is highest. One of the complaints that we have against ISKCON is, you guys do only bhakti. There is no yogasana postures. Can you teach me some yogasana postures? Actually, in my resume, I had wrote that I teach yoga courses. I didn't want to write specifically Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam courses. People might freak out. I said yoga courses. As soon as I joined, they said, can you take yoga courses? Can you show us some postures? I said, that will cost you $100 per hour. They said, okay, no, thank you. That way I was saved. but I didn't say that, but nevertheless I used some other rules to get out of it. And Krishna says, Yoginam, he says that of all the yogis, one who worships me with faith, he is the highest. Then 7th chapter actually began the Bhakti Yoga, wherein Krishna talks about his opulences, and he talks about his energies a little bit. Rasoham apsu kaunteya, he talks about few of his energies in the 7th chapter. Towards the end of 7th chapter, Arjuna asks some questions. Sadi bhutadi daivam mam. He ends that chapter with that verse. Sadi bhutadi daivam mam sadi yajñam chave eviduhu. And then in the 8th chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna, Kim tad brahma adhyatman kim karma purushottama. He says that, oh Krishna, you have mentioned all these things, adhyatman, brahman, karma, prakriti, all these stuff. What are all those things? And most importantly, he asks, how can one remember you at the time of death? So the entire of 8th chapter is dedicated to the dying of a person, because inevitably everyone has to give their body one way or other. In fact, it's the beauty of material nature to make us think that we are born one time and we are going to die one time, when we have been doing that since time immemorial, taking on different bodies. But at the time of death, Krishna wipes our memory clean. Just like you take the device and you take it to the hardware manufacturer, they wipe it out clean, and then that looks brand new, right? is the same thing that has been reused for so many years. So similarly, we have been wiped out clean, we get a new body, and then again the whole process starts. So at the end of 8th chapter, Krishna says that Vedeshu Yajneshu Tapassu Chaiva. He says that, you perform devotional service unto me, then you get the benefits of performing all other processes. You are not missing anything. In the 9th chapter, Krishna talks about his unalloyed devotion. His bhakti, he talks about the most confidential aspect of devotional service. And he gives that famous verse, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, Ye Jana Paryupasate, Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyam. He says, O Krishna, O Arjuna, to those who meditate on me in an undeviating fashion, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So that is the most glorious statement or comforting statement that we can take. And at the end of the 9th chapter, Krishna says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaro. He says, always think of me, become my devotee, offer my homage unto me. Now, the 10th chapter talks a little bit more about the opulences of Krishna or vibhuti of Krishna. How can one think of Krishna at the time of death? So today we will do something different. In the previous semesters, what we would do is, we would go through the entire chapter, trying to cover the entire chapter. You can give me options. But today, we'll recite the entire chapter in Sanskrit and then we go back to each verse, read the translation, read the purport. And ideally, we'll try to cover as much as we can, translation and purport in this class. And the rest, you all can read at home. That is one choice. Or we try to get snippets here and there and we try to cover the whole chapter. My recommendation is that we at least read the purport and we try to cover as many verses, because some purports are really beautiful. Srila Prabhupada has some points. So, and then you don't have to start reading from verse 1 for the purport. You might get the satisfaction that I completed few purports in this class itself. And depending on the size of purport, we could cover quite some verses in this class. Should we try that today and see how it goes? Okay. So kindly repeat after me. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Bhuya eva mahabaho Shrunu me paramam vachaha Yatteham priyamanaya Vakshami hitakamyaya Name vidu suraganaha Prabhavam nama harshayah Aham adirhi devanam Maharshinam cha sarvashah Yo mam ajam anadim cha Vetti loka maheshwaram Asammuda samartyeshu Sarva papai pramuchyate Buddhir jnanam asammoha Kshama satyam dama shamaha Sukham dukkam bhavo bhavo Bhayam cha bhayameva cha Ahimsa samata tushtis Tapodanam yasho yashaha Bhavanti bhava bhutanam Matta eva pritagvida Maharshaya sapta purve Chatvaro manavastata Madbhava manasa jata Yesham loka ima praja एतां विभूतिं योगं च मम यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः सोऽविकल्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः। अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवो मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां मुदा भावा समान्विता मच्चित्ता मद्गता प्राणा बोधयन्ता परस्परं कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यं तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च। तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन मामुपयान्ति ते। तेषाम् एवानुकम्पार्थम् अहम् अज्ञानजं तमः नाश्यामि आत्मभावस्तो ज्ञानदीपेन भास्वता। अर्जुन उवाच परं ब्रह्मा परं धाम पवित्रं परमं भवान् पुरुषं शाश्वतं दिव्यम् आदिदेवम् अजं विभुम् आहुस्त्वां ऋषयः सर्वे देवर्षिर्नारदस्तथा असितो देवलो व्यासा स्वयं चैवाब्रवीषि मे सर्वम् एतद्ऋतं मन्ये यन्मां वदसि केशव न हि ते भगवान् व्यक्तिं विदुर्देवा न दानवा स्वयम् एवात्मनात्मानं वेत्तत्वं पुरुषोत्तम भूतभावन भूतेश देवदेवा जगत्पते वक्तुम् अर्हस्य शेषेण. So arhasi and asesha is one word, so that's why we combine, and the a is gone for the second word, so it goes vaktum arhasya seshena divya hyatma vibhutayah yabhir vibhutibhir lokan imam stvam vyapya tishtasi katam vidyam aham yogims tvam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya vistarenatmana yogam vibhutim cha janardhana bhuya kataya triptirhi shrinvato nasti me mritam. Shri Bhagavan uvacha hantate katayishyami divya hyatma vibhutaya pradhanayata kuru shreshta nastyanta नास्त्यन्तो विस्तरस्य मे अहम् आत्मगुडाकेश सर्वभूताशयस्थितः अहम् आदिश्च मध्यं च भूतानाम् अन्त एव च आदित्यानाम् अहं विष्णुर् ज्योतिषां रविरंशुमान् मरीचिर्मरुतामस्मि नक्षत्राणाम् अहं शशि वेदानां सामवेदोऽस्मि देवानाम् अस्मि वासवः इन्द्रियाणां मनश्चास्मि भूतानाम् अस्मि चेतना रुद्राणां शङ्करश्चास्मि वित्तेषो यक्षराक्षसां वसूनां पावकश्चास्मि मेरुशिखरिणामहम् पुरोदासां च मुख्यं मां विद्धि पार्थ बृहस्पतिं सेनानीनाम् अहं स्कन्दा सरसाम् अस्मि सागरा महर्षीणां भृगुरहम् गिरामस्म्येकमक्षरम् यज्ञानां जपयज्ञोऽस्मि स्थावराणां हिमालयः अश्वत्था सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदः गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः उच्चैश्रवसम् अश्वानां विद्धि माम् अमृतोद्भवम् ऐरावतं गजेन्द्राणां नराणां च नराधिपम् आयुधानाम् अहं वज्रम् धेनूनाम् अस्मि कामधुक् प्रजनश्चास्मि कण्दर्पः सर्पाणाम् अस्मि वासुकी अनन्तश्चास्मि नागानां वरुणो यादासामहम् पितॄणाम् अर्यमा चास्मि यमा संयमतामहम् प्रह्लादश्चास्मि दैत्यानां कालाकलयतामहम् मृगाणां च मृगेन्द्रोऽहम् वैनतेयश्च पक्षिणां पवनापवतामस्मि रामाशस्त्राभृतामहम् झषाणां मकरश्चास्मि श्रोतसामस्मि जानवी सर्गाणाम् आदिरन्तश्च मध्यं चैवाहमर्जुन अध्यात्मविद्याविद्यानां वादा प्रवदतामहम् अक्षराणाम् अकारोऽस्मि द्वन्द्वा सामासिकस्य च aham evakshaya kalo dataham vishvato mukha mrityu sarvaharaschaham udbhavascha bhavisyatam Kiti Srirvakchanarinam Smritir Medadriti Kshama Brihat Sama Tatha Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Rutunam Kusumakaraha Dyutam Chalayatam Asmi Tejas Tejasvinamaham Jayosmi Vyavasayosmi Sattvam Sattvavatamaham Vrishninam Vasudevosmi Pandavanam Dhananjaya Muninam Apyaham Vyasa Kavinam Ushana Kavihi Dando Damayatam Asmi Nitirasmi Jigichitam Maunam Chaivasmi Guhyanam Jnanam Jnanavatamaham Yachapi Sarvabhutanam Bijam Tadahamarjuna Natad Asti Vinayatsyan Maya Bhutam Characharam Nantosti Mama Divyanam Vibhutinam Parantapa Eshatu Deshata Prokto Vibhuter Vistaro Maya Yadyad Vibhuti Matsatvam Srimad Urjitameva va Tattad eva vagachatvam Mama tejomsha sambhavam Athava bahunaitena Kim jnatena tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam Ekam shena stito jagad Om Tat Sat, you can all repeat together. Om Tat Sat Idi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vibhuti Yogo Nama Dashamodhyayaha. So quiz question, what is the name of this chapter in Sanskrit? Vibhuti Yoga. What is Vibhuti means? Opulences, powers, opulences. But why are we talking about Krishna's opulences? So I'll briefly give the breakdown of this chapter and then we can go. For the first few verses, Krishna says that I'll tell you more about myself, and he gives few verses which gives the indication of why he tells about himself. And in the next, after the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, which are the 4 verses, then Arjuna says to Krishna, Krishna, I accept you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he glorifies Krishna. After that he says, but oh Krishna, how can I remember you? One of the difficulties is, Krishna says, always think of me, but how can I remember Krishna? One of the ways to remember Krishna is the opulence of Krishna. For example, forgetting the person who occupies the post, the President of United States, what is the first thing that comes when a person talks about the President of United States? More specifically, power is good. More specific. How is the power shown? There is an opulence. For example, White House is one of the opulences. As soon as you talk of the President of United States, there is something called White House. There is something called Air Force One, motorcade, and then there's the nuclear football. For beast, for the bigger button, the bigger button in the hand of a stable genius. So all these things flash to the mind, and when Krishna talks about his opulences, he is helping us to think of him. Because did I tell the story before? If I told the story, if you know, please forgive me. But if you don't know, here is the story. One of the devotees met one person. He came to the temple, and they got talking, and then he talked about Bhagavad Gita. And in that, the person who is new to the temple, he said, Bhagavad Gita is all great, but something I don't like about Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. He's too much boasting about himself. He says, I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. Completely he says, whatever he says Bhagavad Gita, he's just saying about himself. Full of himself he's saying. And the devotee didn't say anything, he just kept quiet. He may be God, but he shouldn't be boasting like that. He didn't say anything about being God. So the devotee asked him, so, sir, what do you do? And he said, I'm the branch bank manager of this so-and-so bank. So what does it mean? Then he started telling, I manage 7 branches and I have about 100 and 200 employees under me, and we manage this much amount of transaction, and on, and he went. And the devotee asked him, sir, why are you boasting about yourself too much? Are you not boasting? No, I'm not boasting. This is actually the fact that I am the bank manager and I have so many employees, I manage. And then he said, the actual fact is Krishna is God, and he is having all those opulences. So, the other way to remember is that in this chapter, when Krishna talks about his opulences, things that you see remind of Krishna. So on a day-to-day life, when Krishna says, I am the taste in the water, who doesn't drink water? And if you drink water and say, okay, this is taste of Krishna, then somewhere you are remembering Krishna. So the idea of Krishna telling about his opulences is to remember. And that's precisely the point of this chapter. Arjuna asks Krishna, how do I remember you? What are your opulences? Please tell me so that I can remember you. That's the goal of this. And then he goes on, I am amongst the mountains, I am Himalayas. Amongst the creatures of the jungle, I am lion. So on and so forth. So when you see all those things, then you'll remember. It's not that they are opulences of Krishna, but not Krishna. So next time when you go to Monterey Aquarium to see sharks, don't take Aarti plate with you. They're the opulences. When you see the shark, oh yeah, amongst the aquatics I am shark. Oh, that's a representation of Krishna. Right? I mean, doing Aarti to sharks may be feasible, but don't try at the safari zoo with lions. Amongst the animals, I'm lion. So, anyways, let's go ahead. I'll do the first verse, and then we can do the purport, and we can go like that. Actually, I would humbly recommend Jagrini Mataji to read the first verse and the purport, please. The English translation and the purport. If somebody can pass the mic to Mataji, that will speed up the process.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend.
Thank you so much.
For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained." I want me to do the purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Bhagavan is explained thus: by Parasara Muni, one who is full in 6 opulences, who has full strength, full fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation, is Bhagawan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. While Krishna was present on this earth, he displayed all 6 opulences. Therefore, great sages like Parashara Muni have all accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now Krishna is instructing Arjuna in more confidential knowledge of his opulences and his work. Previously, beginning with the 7th chapter, the Lord has already explained his different energies and how they are acting. Now in this chapter, he explains his specific opulences to Arjuna. In the previous chapter, he has clearly explained his different energies to establish devotion in firm conviction. Again, in this chapter, he tells Arjuna about his manifestations and various opulences. The more one hears about the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. One should always hear about the Lord in the association of devotees. That will enhance one's devotional service. Discourses in the society of devotees can take place only among those who are really anxious to be in Krishna consciousness. Others cannot take part in such discourses. The Lord clearly tells Arjuna that because Arjuna is very dear to him, for his benefit, such discourses are taking place.
So Krishna needs some business and he has to advertise about himself. He says, Arjuna, I am explaining to you for your own benefit. Because Krishna is the source of all opulences. He doesn't need anything. The more you hear, oh wow, Krishna has this opulence. Oh wow, he has this opulence, that opulence. Then you will be more and more firmly convinced. Because in the conditioned state, one cannot know Krishna as he is. Neither one is attracted to Krishna in his form as Shyam Sundar. Thank you. Neither is he attracted in his form as Shyam Sundar. You cannot say, oh, I see Krishna everywhere. Because in the conditioned state, we need to know more about Krishna, about how he is actually in charge. Another example is, people follow the rules of traffic, yes or yes? Fortunately, they follow. We are still alive. But what is the primary benefit? But what is the primary impetus to follow the traffic rules? Safety. Avoid accidents. What else? Ticket. Exactly. Avoid ticketing. As in, that there is a higher power that is watching me and I can be fined. If there is no such fear, some countries have practically no traffic police, and the consequences are pretty. At least the place where I come from nowadays, it's improved. But growing up, nobody cared about red light. If the red light was there, it was like nothing. All they had to do is wait, see anybody is coming, just go past it, and nobody would catch them. If people would catch them, whatever. But the idea is that not only when you see the opulence of Krishna, you have reverence and attraction for Krishna, but you are also like, yes, Krishna is really some power. He has some true power that is insurmountable. So that increases. And the other thing Srila Prabhupada writes is, the more you know about Krishna, the more you will be fixed in his devotional service. Wow. Krishna says, I am there in the heart of every living entity. It means that, there is no question of doing something really wrong or unethical when nobody is watching, because Krishna is sitting in the heart watching. So when you have that, then you can see that knowing about Krishna is enough for cultivating, ethical qualities. People in this world have this debate, like what good does religion do? Atheists are also moral people. Why are you bringing religion as a source of morality? But, there is a deeper morality with religion, with spiritual life, not superficial. Because when things go wrong, then all bets are off. There is no question of morality. It's a dog-eat-dog world. So you can see that how the morality is shifting without basis in spiritual life. Okay, let's read the next one. I'm hoping to cover a few verses with this experiment. If not, we'll go back to our regular thing. Text 2. Is that okay if I read this text 2 and the purport? Okay. Neither the hosts of the demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. Purport. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, the Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. No one is greater than him. He is the cause of all causes. Here also it is stated by the Lord personally that he is the cause of all the demigods and sages. Even the demigods and great sages cannot understand Krishna. They can understand neither his name nor his personality. So what is the position of the so-called scholars of this tiny planet? No one can understand why this Supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. One should know, then, that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, it is clearly stated that even the great demigods are not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They can speculate to the limits of their imperfect senses and can reach the opposite conclusion of impersonalism, of something not manifested by the three qualities of material nature, or they can imagine something by mental speculation, but it's not possible to understand Krishna by such foolish speculation. Here the Lord indirectly says that if anyone wants to know the absolute truth, quote, "Here I am as the personality of Godhead, I am supreme," unquote. One should know this. Although one cannot understand the inconceivable Lord who is personally present, he nonetheless exists. We can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying his words in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The conception of God as some ruling power or as impersonal Brahman can be reached by persons who are in the inferior energy of the Lord, but the personality of Godhead cannot be conceived unless one is in the transcendental position. Because most men cannot understand Krishna in his actual situation, out of his causeless mercy, he descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet, despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, those speculators, due to contamination in the material energy, still think that the impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered onto the Supreme Lord can understand, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, that he is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of the God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately onto the Supreme Lord. And out of the causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand him. So even great sages agree, what is Atma, what is Supreme, what is the Supreme? It is he whom we have to worship. Any questions, comments? Because often we get questions like, why are the demigods bewildered by Krishna? Don't they know that he is God? Why are they bewildered? So the example is Brahma kidnapping the cowherd boys and the calves of Vrindavan when Krishna was a small boy. Why would he do that? Why would you play with fire? So the answer is that even the great demigods are put into illusion by Krishna. So it is said in the first verse of the first canto, first chapter of Bhagavatam, Janmadhyasya yatonvayat itaratas chateshu abhijñasvarat tene brahma hridayadikavaye muhyanti yatsurayaha. Muhyanti yatsurayaha means even these demigods are completely bewildered by the opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna himself confirms that because I am the source of all the demigods, they do not understand me. I can tell a simple thing. For example, parents have children, and the children, when they are going to school, they ask the parents, give me some, maybe when they're growing, maybe 7, 8 years old, they go to school and they want to have ice cream at school, for example. And they say, give me $2, and then when the father takes out the purse and there is like 100 stacks of note, and they look at the 100, you are a very rich man. Because the child doesn't know the opulence of the parents, they think that is extremely rich. Just a very crude example. You are born of Krishna. Krishna is your source. How can you know the opulence of Krishna from whom you have come from? And unless Krishna himself he reveals, he's saying these are my opulences. You can never know. So that is what the Lord is trying to mention here. Shraddha, please read. Okay, the next purport is big purport. So you can read maybe the translation and the first paragraph on page 449.
He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. Just the first...
the first page up to the first paragraph in page 449. You can go all the way at that way.
Purport. As stated in the 7th chapter, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of spiritual realization are not ordinary men. They are superior to millions and millions of ordinary men who have no knowledge of spiritual realization. But out of those actually trying to understand their spiritual situation, one who can come to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the proprietor of everything, the unborn, is the most successful spiritually realized person. In the stage only, when one has fully understood Krishna's supreme position, can one be free completely from all sinful reactions. Here the Lord is described by the word aja, meaning unborn, but he is distinct from the living entities who are described in the 2nd chapter as aja. The Lord is different from the living entities who are taking birth and dying due to material attachment. The conditioned souls are changing their bodies, but his body is not changeable. Even when he comes to this material world, he comes as the same unborn. Therefore, in the 4th chapter, it is said that the Lord, by his internal potency, is not under the inferior material energy, but is always in the superior energy. In this verse, the words Vetti Loka Maheshwaram indicate that one should know that Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of the planetary systems of the universe. He was existing before the creation, and he is different from his creation. All the demigods were created within this material world, but as far as Krishna is concerned, it is said that he is not created. Therefore, Krishna is different even from the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva. And because he is the creator of Brahma and Shiva and all other demigods, he is the supreme person of all planets. Sri Krishna is therefore different from everything that is created, and anyone who knows him as such immediately becomes liberated from all sinful reactions. One must be liberated from all sinful activities to be in the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Only by devotional service can he be known, and not by any other means, as stated in Bhagavad Gita.
Any questions? So, if you really want to get more glimpses into the dynamics between Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Vishnu, then you are recommended to read the first few chapters of the 4th canto, the Daksha sacrifice, the sacrifice of Daksha, where Daksha offended Lord Shiva, and Sati gave up her body because of some altercations, and Lord Shiva created a whole army to destroy the sacrifice of Daksha, and how Brahma mediates on behalf of demigods so that the sacrifice is done, and at last Vishnu comes to the arena of Daksha sacrifice. You can see that how the dynamics play. On one level they are not different, but on another level they are completely different, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Divya Mataji, you want to do up till the remaining of the purport, please?
One should not try to understand Krishna as a human being. As stated previously, only a foolish person thinks him to be a human being. This is again expressed here in a different way. A man who is not foolish, who is intelligent enough to understand the constitutional position of the Godhead, is always free from all sinful reactions. If Krishna is known as the son of Devaki, then how can he be unborn? That is also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. When he appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva, he was not born as an ordinary child. He appeared in his original form and then he transformed himself into an ordinary child. Anything done under the direction of Krishna is transcendental. It cannot be contaminated by material reactions, which may be auspicious or inauspicious. The conception that there are things auspicious and inauspicious in the material world is more or less a mental concoction, because there is nothing auspicious in the material world. Everything is inauspicious because the very material nature is inauspicious. We simply imagine it to be auspicious. Real auspiciousness depends on activities in Krishna consciousness in full devotion and service. Therefore, if we at all want our activities to be auspicious, then we should work under the directions of the Supreme Lord. Such directions are given in authoritative scriptures such as Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, or from a bona fide spiritual master. Because the spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Lord, his direction is directly the direction of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master, saintly persons and scriptures direct in the same way. There is no contradiction in these three sources. All actions done under such direction are free from the reactions of pious or impious activities of this material world. The transcendental attitude of the devotee in the performance of activities is actually that of renunciation, and this is called sannyasa. As stated in the first verse of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, one who acts as a matter of duty because he has been ordered to do so by the Supreme Lord, and who does not seek shelter in the fruits of his activities, anashrita karma phalam, is a true renouncer. Anyone acting under the direction of the Supreme Lord is actually a sannyasi and a yogi, and not the man who has simply taken the dress of sannyasi or a pseudo-yogi.
Before we go ahead, is this format better, or should I cover the whole chapter and then you can read at home the purports? Sorry, Mataji. You can read purports at home. Okay. Yeah. So that way we can go faster, we can cover more, but then you'll miss points in the purport. So we can do that. Anyway, for today, let's complete. Yes.
Well, maybe you could, pick out the parts of the purpose that you wouldn't want us to miss.
Okay. It's better we can go through the chapter in a more higher level, and then we can read at home. If that's okay? All right. So if that was the case, then from next class on, we'll go verse by verse. We'll read the verse and the translation, and then we can discuss some important points. Text 4 and 5, anybody just read? Yes, Prasanna. Yes, can you please give him the mic?
Here in the purport, we actually saw the explanation for unborn, how Krishna appeared in his original form. What's the explanation that's given for him passing? I mean, he is unborn. He doesn't. He's permanent, right? But we do know before the start of Kali Yuga, he actually got struck by an arrow. So what's the explanation giving him for passing?
As much as Krishna does not need a mother and father or a cause to appear in this material world, similarly he has no cause or reason to disappear from this world. But it was out of his pastime that he allowed the hunter to shoot him, as in that particular incarnation. But as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he just went to visit Tota Gopinath, and then he just never came back. He merged into the body of Tota Gopinath. And so it is just like the appearing of sun. Sun comes and sun disappears. So it is like that. It is under his will that he decided that way. That's the way he wants to pass away, or he wants to unmanifest from this world. So does that help? text 5 and 6. You can just read the Yogesh. You can go from here. Okay. Or you can. Yeah, you can do that, please. Sorry. Just the translation. 4 and 5, please.
Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy, all these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone.
So people want to be famous, then you need to have Krishna help you create that fame, because he says, I am the source of fame. Having said that, this quality is created by Krishna, but that doesn't mean that you do activities which are pretty bad, and then when you become infamous, that is created by Krishna too. That doesn't work that way. So, but having said that, Krishna goes and Srila Prabhupada goes into the purport of each thing. What is intelligence? What is knowledge? What is freedom from doubt and delusion? Truthfulness. There are very nice explanations are mentioned. You can go through and you can see them. We'll take the last paragraph of this purport. Of whatever good we find, good or bad, the origin is Krishna. Nothing can manifest in this material world which is not Krishna. That is knowledge. Although we know things are differently situated, we should realize that everything flows from Krishna. This is the reason why Krishna says, even if you are famous or even if you are infamous, do not be disturbed. Because you are not the creator of those qualities. I created those qualities. You just have to tolerate. But under the influence of material nature, I think, no, I did it. So that is the reason I am famous. And somehow people write the keys to success, thinking that somehow they have become successful, and they write books on how to be successful for others, thinking that they can apply that formula and others will be successful. And people who are doing this think, oh, that guy is successful by following this message, I will be successful. Not knowing the fact that Krishna is the person who made that person successful. There is no harm. Please read books and try to emulate the experts in your respective fields. But doing that with the expectation I will be on that level or even more, that is where the problem comes. So unless Krishna intervenes or Krishna agrees, there is no question of being on the same level of success. If Krishna so desires, you will be on a greater level of success. Lord Brahma, is he successful or not? He is pretty successful. He has a long life. He is the numero uno boss of this whole material universe, not CEO of company for few months or years before you are kicked out by the board and replaced by or politician just for like 1 year, 2 year term or 5 year term, and then kicked out, run for re-election, and then some scandal came about, and then you can never be seen. But he is Brahma. He has such powers that he can create this universe. He has his own planet. On his planet, there's no need of deodorants because nobody's armpits stink. That's what Bhagavatam says. Please don't quote me. Because there's no sweat, no smell. There is no question of insurance because they never fall sick. Their bodies are lustrous, they are shining. Everybody has their own planes. We have one plane for 4 years, one occupant of a White House thinks he or she is great, or if you have a plane, it's really great. For them, it's a plane that is like a big castle. So it's amazingly beautiful place, and Brahma is supremely opulent. And but along came a little boy, 5-year-old boy Dhruva, who said, I want a planet greater than Brahma's. And Krishna gave him. Krishna gave him Dhruva Loka, which was even higher than Brahma Loka. So Krishna in that sense is capable of fulfilling all the desires, but having said that, our desire should be only to serve Krishna. And Krishna doesn't give it so easily. Planets, no big deal. I'll give you, if you want a planet, I'll give you a planet. I've created unlimited number of planets. You want one small planet, take it. For him it's nothing. Because his opulences are so inexhaustible that's not, but he says, give me pure devotion, then Krishna says, that will take some time. Because I become bound up by you if I'm captured by your love. So that, Baba, wait, I'm going to take some time. Not some time, if he so desires, he can do that instantaneously also. But, so, yeah. Text 6.
Translation?
Yes, please.
The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages and the Manus, progenitors of mankind, come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them.
Thank you. Text 7.
One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt.
Any doubt? No doubt, because Krishna says, if you know my opulence, that's the reason why Krishna is saying, when he says engage and become my devotee, unless I know, you can say that any person walks along the road, say engage in my service. But seriously, if you are God, if you show your opulences, then, oh yeah, he is God, and then he is worthy of being engaged in devotional service. Not anybody who says like that. So when Krishna says, if I tell you about my mystic opulences, then you will become so inspired by me that you will engage in my service without doubt. So that is the reason why Krishna is telling, for our own benefit.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
So this is the first of the 4 verses of Bhagavad Gita called the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, which in nutshell give the entire summary of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the first one. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport about how in the beginning, when there was nothing, Krishna was present. Bhagavatam gives this in a much more vivid fashion of how Lord created Brahma when there was nothing, and Brahma was really bewildered on how to create this universe. So the whole purport goes on like that the Lord is the source of everything, both material and spiritual. And Krishna alone is the true, owner and controller. Any questions thus far? All right. Yes, Sadhana Mataji. Please, somebody give her a mic. What is the time? Waiting.
Okay, just going back to 7 quickly.
Yes.
There's a point that is made that unless you understand the definition of God, you can't do any devotional service.
Okay.
It seems like a very pivotal aspect of the Bhagavad Gita, right? Because all through we are almost asked to understand God in a different way, more mechanistic. Mm-hmm. And now this is much more about the why, I think. So I was just thinking, the question is, what is, for those people who are just starting in devotional service that might not have a good understanding of opulences and so forth, how do you, because you've got the yoga ladder, right? Mm-hmm, so I understand that, but then this says something quite different, I think, that unless you have the understanding first, then you can't do devotional service. So maybe a little grey.
I see. So the Lord here says, or in the purport, one who understands this opulence of mind, one who is completely convinced, he engages in unalloyed devotion. When in the materialistic thing, okay, I need something, who can give me? Seems there is some God. I have to go worship him, do some seva or whatever, and then God will give me something. So that faith is more in terms of the needs I have rather than worshipping God. But when Krishna says in the 9th chapter, become my devotee, always think of me and offer my homage unto me, then Krishna has to say that, look, if I tell you more about your opulences, will it actually change your mind to be more fixed in my service? And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. Because initially you just can't think of Vrindavan and Radha Shyam Sundar like Mahaprabhu did. Everywhere, wherever I go, I see Krishna. That is a very extremely high stage. In our thing, when we go to ocean, you have this desire to go to ocean sometimes. Maybe your kids have or your spouses have, whatever be it, go for a walk along the ocean or maybe surfing or whatever be the reason. You end up in a what could be a material endeavor, but if you are in knowledge of Krishna's opulences, you go to ocean, you say, wow, this is Krishna. This is one of the opulences of Krishna. This is the beauty of Krishna. Millions of people will go to the ocean beach, but hardly anybody will think like that because they are not fixed in this knowledge. And Krishna says, that way you can think of me. Yes, Prasanna.
I keep fixating on the word factually convinced, because the very definition of fact is changed, right? Because for us, in the material world, things as fact, but that has now been changed to spiritual world. And I keep thinking, what would be factually convinced? What would be the manifestation of factually convinced mean, right? Or what would it appear as? I'm just not being able to put my finger.
Thank you for the question. Factually convinced is that everything belongs to Krishna, and whatever opulences that he has mentioned are his, truly his. There is no doubt about it. Because in the material, sometimes you think, is it? Is it really belonging to God? If it is, that is the case, why is there so much of, wicked stuff going on? People are grabbing land, people are grabbing this and that position, whatever be it, as if thinking it belongs to me, but factually everything belongs to Krishna. Is it truly that? Sometimes you are having some doubts. But Krishna says, no, factually I am convinced that everything belongs to Krishna and these are his opulences. Then you can easily be fixed in devotional service. So, because that doubt will still be there. Keshu Jaba, how can I think of you? Arjuna is posing this question saying that I'm just a materialistic person. You say, always think of me, but I am in this material world. You didn't take me back to spiritual world to always think of me. You are still put me in this material world. How can I think of you? Then he says, all this material world actually belongs to me. So if you see some aspects of it, you can think of me. I'll give another example. When a child goes to school, does the mother think of the child? Maybe, sometimes. She gets busy with the household work. But the child has the small home slippers, okay? They're the cute home slippers with, you can guess whatever you want to put at the end. Some cute puppies or cute cats or whatever. They have that home slippers with those, you remember those thingies where they have some animals sticking out? As soon as the mother sees those home slippers, she immediately thinks of her child. Because that is one of the opulences of that child. Now, if there could be some like dramatic movies where the mother is always thinking like that, and ultimately it turned out to be a hallucination. There is no child, and she was dreaming, and there are only slippers. But here, actually, if the mother has a child, then she will think of her child when she sees the slippers. So the opulences of, or not the opulence, the thing of the child is the slipper. The opulence of Krishna is his material world, which help us think of him. And that factually we are convinced, yes, this is true. Is that helpful? Yeah. And then, this is the beginning of semester, so as we go along, you can still have, yes, Jagarini Mataji.
The way Srila Prabhupada wrote in the purport, he's speaking to us. The purport is Prabhupada convincing us. So when Prabhupada talks and uses the strong language factually, he's telling us it's a fact. We don't know it yet. but it's a fact. So the more that we do devotional service, the more we'll actually experience Krishna's opulences. We'll have reciprocation, and we'll automatically remember him more and more, to the degree that at some point you just can't live without him. You just see him everywhere. And that's, I think, the what's being described here. But until we get to that point, Prabhupada's telling us this is a fact, you know, and you will come to that point.
Nice. Thank you, Mataji. Any other further questions?
So
Yes.
The interesting choice of word is fact and convinced. So, right?
Factually convinced.
Because if Prabhupada is telling us it's a fact, we're not yet convinced yet. Right? If we are convinced, we already know it's to be a fact. So that's why I was just fixating upon those two things. And yes.
Actually, that's nice you bring it up. It's a pretty interesting use of words. Factually convinced. Yeah. Because conviction can be without facts too, right, Prasanna? Convictions can be there without facts too. I mean, I'm convinced of something which doesn't factually exist.
Yeah. I mean, see, when you constantly tell yourself 1,000 times, you'll
Exactly.
be convinced, but it may not be a fact.
Exactly.
It may be a hallucinated conviction.
Exactly.
But the more and more I think about the explanations you're giving and Mataji is giving, you know, the simple example I can think of is when you see a mountain or a Himalayas, you know it's not man-made.
True. Yeah.
And now that's a fact.
Yeah.
And once you know that to be a fact, then you start thinking, you know, who else created this?
True. True.
And then you go through the hierarchy of demigods and and finally go, okay, there is an ultimate creator, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I say it gets my thinking get going.
That's nice.
Right? So you have to see your own experiences that you see it as a fact to convince you. But
Correct.
That's why I was fixated on those two words.
Right. I mean, and on the other note, conviction without facts, you can keep on repeating the mantra, I am a stable genius, I am a stable genius, I am a stable genius, million times, you will still be the fool, imaginarily convinced. All right. Text 9.
The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, these are purely the activities. These are activities exclusively for pure devotees. Their happiness exclusively lies in hearing and tasting about Krishna, and they just are. That is their life, just to hear about Krishna. Text 10.
To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Thank you. There is a famous paragraph here which is quoted often on page 460. That would be the last paragraph to this purport. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization, but if he is still not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instruction so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. The qualification is that the person always engage himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion and render all kinds of services. So one point here people often say is that my spiritual master, he initiates me and then I see him never for next couple of years. So how can I be constantly guided by my spiritual master? Or there are cases where the spiritual master has left this material world. So Prabhupada gives great hope because one is attached to a bona fide spiritual master, one has taken shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and is rendering some service. Krishna from within guides. And it's a fact in case of Srila Prabhupada, as Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur, he left, and his organization that he started was in a disarray because of rampant infighting. And yet Srila Prabhupada had that firm faith, and Srila Bhakti Saraswati said to him that he should take sannyas, and then somehow he impelled him to start this worldwide organization. So there is a great hope. One should not think that I'm not able to see my spiritual master every day, every second to get ratification from him on how to do things. So one should be patient. Having said that, wherever there is an opportunity, one should serve one's spiritual master. Right? Questions? Okay. 11, please.
To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy within the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance.
Thank you. The last paragraph, let's just quickly read the first few lines. Due to contamination, you can go up. Due to the contamination of material association, through many, many millions of births, one's heart is always covered with the dust of materialism. But when one engages in devotional service and constantly chants Hare Krishna, the dust quickly clears and one is elevated to the platform of pure knowledge. So there is great hope. Srila Prabhupada's purports give great hope that it's sometimes not an easy task. Sometimes it's a little difficult, but Krishna is always there within the heart to guide and help us. Text 12, 13, please.
Arjuna said, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, and the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asishta, Devala and Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me.
So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that not only Krishna himself saying he is God, but all is confirmed by all the great sages. So on the path of devotional service, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, there is a triangulation. Shastras are the words of Krishna, they lead to Krishna. Guru is leading us one to Krishna, and then the Sadhu also is leading one to Krishna. So the goal ultimately of all this is Krishna. Yes, Satya Prabhu.
What is?
Yeah, I'll repeat it. Don't.
What is the difference between sadhu and?
So the question is, what is the difference between sadhu and guru? The guru is the one who gives you diksha. The sadhus could be associates or the association of devotees in whom, for example, you can perform your devotional service like hearing and chanting. So the idea that one always lives with one's spiritual master and he is the one who takes back to Godhead might not happen all the time. So there is always association needed. What are the 5 items of devotional service that Rupa Goswami says? A, B, C, D.
Association of devotees, reading Bhagavad, chanting
So in that, the association of devotees, and then later he says that association of devotees has 2 activities. One is to take shelter of the spiritual master, and other is to hear Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. So we have that 2-pronged sadhu and guru going on. Text 14, please.
O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality.
Thank you. Text 15.
Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency, O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe.
So now you see the problem when somebody says, show me God. Nobody can even know who God is unless Arjuna says, I don't know you. Only you know by yourself. No one else can know you. So see the ridiculousness of the argument, show me God. God A is not to be seen. You should seriously play games with the persons who are like that. Show me God. You should take a small rock and say, this is God. What? How can this be God? How do you know who God is? And then the argument will stop, because it will never going to reach any conclusion. You are saying, show me God, with having no idea of what God is, and I show you a rock and say this is God. You don't accept it. Even if God comes in front of you, still you don't have an idea who God is, you can still say this is not God. So what's your point? See the catch-22 situation. So Krishna says nobody can know. Arjuna says no one can know except you yourself know about you. I can't know. No, neither the sages know, nor the demigods know. Everybody, unless Krishna reveals himself, it is very hard to know the opulences about him. And that's why Krishna is willing to reveal all his opulences. And that's what Arjuna requests in the next few verses. So text 16.
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes.
So throughout their time together, until this point, Arjuna didn't know he is God?
Of course he knew he was God. Because he was intelligent enough to take shelter, right? Krishna says...
As a guru.
Yeah.
Second chapter.
Yeah, he says that Shishasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. Of course he knew he was God. Up till this point, like, if he didn't realize he was God, then there would be competition between him and Duryodhana. You remember that when they went to collect armies, and then Krishna said, you can choose, one of you can choose me, the other can choose who? Narayani Sena. So obviously he knew. They were just Pandavas. They had only one obsession. Somehow or other bring Krishna to Hastinapur. They fire up a sacrifice or devise a calamity or do something that Krishna will be there with us. And that's what is said in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Narada, when he went to meet the Pandavas, they are discussing, okay, what is the next sacrifice? What is the next calamity? Somehow or other Krishna can come. And in fact, I'm not joking. Queen Kunti says, Vipududa Shantuta Shashvas. Please again, let them come again and again, these calamities. If you are not on her platform, please don't ask. Okay. Yes, Sirisha Mataji.
Krishna himself says that he is God. How we believe that he is God? If some person says, I am the Supreme Personality, like Krishna, so how we believe?
I got it. I'll repeat the question. This is fine. So how is this Krishna Supreme Personality of God? If you can hold that thought till one more chapter, when we go to 11th chapter, then we can get a little more light on that. But it's a very nice question. I like it. It is true. Like, people can show a rock and say this is God, right? Yeah. Text 17. 16, sorry.
Please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds.
Thank you. Text 17.
O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you, and how shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Text 18.
O Janardhan, again please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satisfied in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words.
So when Krishna says to Arjuna, "O Arjuna, because you are not envious of me, I am telling you this secret," this is where it comes. In an ordinary materialistic life, if person keeps telling about his or her opulences, after a stage you will stop. He says, "Stop. You said that, now let me tell you what I have." Even you may not do it very abruptly, but you will do it very subtly. "Oh yeah, you had that. Oh, yeah, I have a car. Oh really? Yeah, I had a car too." And then you immediately jump into your own situation. It's hard to talk. But Arjuna here is saying, tell me more. I just want to hear. The more you tell me about your opulences, the more nectarian thing it is. So that is where the not envy comes. Really? Krishna has that too? He is a representation of this? Oh my God, when will he stop telling about his opulences? But here is exactly opposite. Tell me more. It's such nectar to hear about your opulences. And the reason is this. Krishna is the source of all nectar. And any opulence related with Krishna is equally relishable and enjoyable. But if you have envy in the heart, then you can't take that. It's like, why only he? Why not me? So, text 19, please, unless there is a question.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestation, but only of those which are prominent, O Arjuna, for my opulence is limitless."
And we have a war to fight. Please remind, this is before the Mahabharata war. So, yeah, go ahead. Text 20.
I am Super Soul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings.
Thank you. Text 21.
Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant sun. Of the Marutas, I am Marichi. And among the stars, I am the moon.
Text 22.
Of the Vedas, I am the Samveda. Of the demigods, I am the Indra. The king of the heaven, of the senses, I am the mind. And in living beings, I am the living force consciousness.
Thank you. 23.
Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, I am the Lord of Wealth, Kuvera. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni. And of mountains, I am Meru.
Thank you. Text 24.
Priest.
Doesn't work. You go ahead.
Of priests, O Arjuna, know me to be the chief, Brihaspati. Of generals, I am Kartikeya, and of bodies of water, I am Piyush.
Thank you. Any questions thus far? Text 25.
Of the great sages, I am Bhrigu. Of vibrations, I am the transcendental Om. Of sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy names, Japa. And of the immovable things, I am the Himalayas.
So, there could be some confusion about Meru and Himalayas, because, apparently the two are mountain peaks. The reason is that there were mountains that could fly. In the previous ages, the mountains could fly. And, of the mountains that fly, that is Meru, and of mountains that they don't fly or immovable, they are Himalayas. So that is the difference. Text 26. Wow.
Of all trees, I am the banyan tree, and of the sages among the demigods, I am Narada. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitraratha, and among perfected beings, I am the sage Kapila.
Thank you. Text 27.
Of horses, know me to be Uchashrava, produced during the churning of the ocean of nectar, for nectar. Of lordly elephants, I am Airavat, and among men, I am the monarch.
Thank you. Text 28.
Of weapon, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the Surabhi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandharpa, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Vasuki.
Thank you. Text 29.
Of the many hooded Nagas, I am Ananta, and among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Of departed ancestors, I am Aryama, and among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, the lord of death.
Thank you. Text 30.
Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am the Garuda.
31.
Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the widers of weapons, I am the Rama. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of following rivers, I am the Ganges.
I have a quiz question. So, of the wielders of weapon, Krishna is? Which Ram? Balaram? Lord Ram? Parusharam? Nityananda Ram? Why Parusharam? The other two didn't have weapons. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Give. So it's okay. It's okay, Satya. It's fine. Vibhuti means my separated opulences. They are not me, but they are representing me. And Lord Rama and Balaram are none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Parshuram is a Jiva. He is a Shaktyavesh Avadara. So that's why the Acharyas have said, because all these, Airavata, Indra, all these are Jivas who are empowered by the Lord. And so he says Parshurama is the person of the wielders of weapon. That's what. Yeah. Did you cover Vishnunam Vasudeva? We'll come to that point.
Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among the logicians, I am the conclusive truth.
Thank you.
Of letters, I am letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma.
Thank you. Next.
I am the all-devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience.
Text 35.
Of the hymns in Samaveda, I am the Brihat Sama, and of poetry I am Gayatri. Of months I am Margashirsha, and of seasons I am flower-bearing spring.
Thank you. Text 36.
I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong.
This particularly touches me because it's like it shows the adventurous nature of Krishna. You know, if people are seeking thrills and adventures and so on and so forth, with Krishna you get all these in a much intensified fashion. Pretty intense. The point is, and again he says, amongst the cheat I am the gambling. So Krishna's dimension is not one-sided, it's multi-sided, because he is spread over everywhere, and gambling is makes sense that it's really cheating. You can see quite few instances where how in the name of chance, the shuffling is done, but actually it's completely jigged. The whole thing is really rigged so that one person wins and the other person loses. If you want to look up few places in YouTube where they manipulate cards so that no matter how many 5 people are playing and they spread cards like that, but actually the way they spread the cards, only one person gets the right cards and everybody else is the loser. So if it is predefined, then the money is completely lost. So the cheating is done like that. You know what? Please don't gamble. It's okay. Yeah, because if amongst it's a vibhuti of Krishna, so let's head to Las Vegas. It's not the best side of the ideas. Because this is a vibhuti of Krishna. Let's not try that. Text 37.
Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudeva, and of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyasa, and among great thinkers, I am Usana.
Thank you. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, among the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudeva, and Srila Prabhupada writes that Vasudeva is Balaram, because Vasudeva's son was any son of Vasudeva is called Vasudeva, though it is primarily talking about Krishna, but Balaram is also Vasudeva. Some other acharyas, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he says that that Vasudeva is actually Krishna's father, Vasudeva. There is a difference of opinion in the acharyas. Baladev Vidyabhushan says it is Balaramji, whereas Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says no. Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna. How can he be a vibhuti of Krishna? It's actually Krishna's father. And according to some grammatical rules, Vasudeva is also Vasudeva in some certain. They use that angle to bring. So, but then we'll follow Srila Prabhupada's in the examination. Let's not overdo stuff. We'll keep Balaram only, if it comes in exam. Yes. Actually, I saw your hand raised, but I wanted to complete my thought before I could ask. Yeah, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Question of this stature of Arjuna. So here he mentions Arjuna as the most prime of the Pandavas. Whereas we always see that Yudhishthira is always considered the Dharmaraj and the best among the Pandavas. So can you please explain this?
So the vibhutis of Krishna spread all over doesn't mean that the other aspects of Pandavas are in any way less in terms of their qualifications. But when you see Arjuna, then you are reminded of Krishna. That is the idea. And the other point is that it is mentioned in Bhagavatam that Krishna and Arjuna are expansions of Naranarayan Rishi. So Nara is Arjuna and Narayana is Krishna in that particular combination. So that's why he was chosen. Yeah. So by that stretch of imagination, the opulence of strength should be in Bhima, because amongst all the Pandavas, Bhima was the most powerful. In fact, he would, whatever alms that would be collected or that food collected, half of it would go to Bhima. And the rest, 6 or 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, Kunti was there, Draupadi was there sometimes. Yeah, so 6 has to share the remaining half. But when time came, seriously, when the Pandavas were traveling in jungle and they had to climb really difficult mountains to cross, and they were so exhausted because they couldn't keep up. So Bhima would take all of them, 6 of them, and then would climb up the mountains. And then so in that sense he would eat the most, but when the crunch time came, that he would bear the most load too. So it worked both the ways. It was not a one-way traffic with Bhima. Alright, we have few more verses. Actually, if you can wrap up, that'll be nice. You'll get a break. I'm telling it for your benefit. Oh devotees, I tell you for your benefit. Because you need a break to stand up, walk, use the restroom, whatever. So, where are we? Which verse? 37 is over.
38.
38. Thank you.
Among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment, and of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence, and of the wise, I am the wisdom.
One beautiful thing Krishna says, of all those who seek victory, what is he? Because victory without any morality is not Krishna. And people do all sorts of unethical means to obtain victory. There is no Krishna there, and that's why you feel so much guilt. There's no righteousness involved. 39, please.
Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existence. There is not being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me.
Thank you. Text 40.
O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indications of my infinite opulences.
Text 41, please.
Know that all opulent, beautiful and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor.
Text 42.
But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe.
Thank you. So, any questions? Last one question before we end. So, congratulations on surviving the first class of the semester.
Yeah, Kapila, is he an expansion of Krishna, or is he Jiva Tattva?
No. He's an expansion of Krishna.
But in one of the opulences, it is mentioned of the perfected beings. I am Kapila, sage Kapila.
So,
is that sage Kapila different?
So the acharyas say that few of the opulences are actually himself, but in a very, very see, the incarnations of Krishna are multifarious, and sometimes they show very limited power. So those are mentioned in that particular thing. And other point is that, for example, if there is a need for creation and Brahma has to take on his post, and on the all living entities there is no person who is capable of becoming Brahma, the Lord himself become Brahma. So there is that interchangeability sometimes. So Krishna, very few cases he uses his own expansions as saying that they are me. Yes, Sudeep. Maybe later, because next class we can do that. Thank you. Any other points? Because they'll be tired. They need a break, and if not, they'll beat me. You know what? Come here. I'll run. So they can beat you. Sorry, just joking. Making it light, because I know the Bhagavad Gita can be really intense. If I don't, then of the wielders of weapon, that is me. But homework? Okay, we'll announce next class. So Sudeep is going to announce homeworks. Any final points? You should thank you very much for patiently hearing. Please forgive me for any of my offenses, and then we'll meet in 2 weeks' time. And thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha.